Hi, I'm Brittany, a neurodivergent mum and speech pathologist. This is Not Just Theories, where I share what actually works in my real, messy life. Because life doesn't follow a theory. Here's what I actually do. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Not Just Theories. After winding down my regulation series, I'm excited to launch into something new. It's super foundational to childhood development. Early communication. This was a special request from someone who listens to the podcast, and I am excited to dive into it because it's something that is one of the hugest parts of both my job and what I do at home, especially with my youngest, who is just turned 14 months. But I'm going to start us on a concept called serve and return. And this is not just a buzzword, it is a deeply brain building interaction, and it lays the groundwork for language, social skills, relationships, and so much more. It is a concept that applies across all ages and something that you can use from birth with your child, but is really, really amazing for that sort of 1 to 3 year old range in particular. So we will go beyond just a general metaphor of tennis and actually base this on the research from Harvard's Center on the Developing Child. Specifically, their 5 steps for brain building, serve and return. So I will walk us through each step, talk about some anecdotes, and I will try and share some concrete examples that you could try right away. So, by the way, there is a video called 5 Steps for Brain Building by Harvard on YouTube, and there is also an amazing TED talk about serve and return. I will link them in the show notes. Before we dive into the steps, let's orient ourselves a little bit to why it matters. Serve and return interactions are responsive. They're back and forth exchanges between a child and a caring adult. And these play a really key role in shaping brain architecture. Basically, the brain expects this kind of social exchange. So when infants babble or gesture or look somewhere and an adult responds, that back and forth helps build and strengthen neural connections in the child's brain. And over time, these small exchanges support early language, they support emotional regulation, social skills, and they also provide scaffolding for more complex cognitive tasks. It's also worth noting that the absence or inconsistency of these interactions can elevate stress responses and hinder optimal brain development. So our job as caregivers, it's not to drill vocabulary, but it is to be present, responsive, and engaged, creating countless opportunities for these back and forths, which are where children really learn. So I'll walk through the 5 steps that Harvard lays out, naming the step, share what it means, and then try and give a real life or parent-friendly example. The first step from the serve and return is to notice the serve. Which is sharing the child's focus. So looking really closely, like what is the child doing? Are they pointing? Are they looking? Are they making a noise? Reaching for something? That's the serve. Your job is to notice it and share attention with them. So leaning in. So if your child is staring at a ladybug crawling on the window, instead of telling them something like, don't touch it, you might lean closer and say, oh, look at that little bug, or there's a bug on the window. Basically, you're returning the serve by supporting and encouraging them. So you acknowledge them or validate or add to the moment. Basically, it's a way of showing that you're saying, I see that, or I'm going to engage with the same object as you through nodding and smiling. If your child were to babble something like ba-ba, you might say, yes, ba-ba, banana, or hand them a banana. So when they're babbling that banana, that ba-ba, you might be looking at what they could be talking about. That's step 2, is to return the serve with that support and encouragement. Step 3 is to give it a name. So not just paying attention and returning the serve with your attention, but actually naming what they're doing, they're seeing, or they're feeling. So this is where we really get into the language building side of things. By returning the serve with giving it a name, it's helping their child get a label for what's happening even before they can learn to speak. So if the child is banging a spoon and having a lot of fun with it, you might say, bang the spoon, boom, boom, boom. Step 4 is to take turns and wait. So once you have taken your response, you need to pause and give the child time to reply. The idea behind this step is because conversations take a lot more time for little ones. It's our job to wait to provide that respect and support for them. So if you named and returned their serve, you then say silent. You might look expectantly to let them initiate the next move. And the final step of serve and return is to practice beginnings and endings. Children show us when they're done or when they're ready to shift. So they drop a toy, they walk away, or they might get a bit fussy. So we can also pause or close an interaction so that they know it's time to end. So if you're playing peekaboo with them, you might say, all done, another time, and wait to see if they initiate again. So each time you apply these 5 steps, notice the serve, return the serve with support and encouragement, give it a name, take your turn, then wait, and practice beginnings and endings. You're helping build your child's resilience, their connection with you, as well as their communication neural pathways. So, if you're thinking about what this might actually look like, an example is, my son only has a handful of sounds in his babble. We're working on it. But the other day, his favorite word is that. Basically, he just looks at everything all day and he says that, and points to it. So it's really easy to just respond with the interest rather than giving it a name. So for me, that's the step we're working on the most. So noticing, it's easy to notice what he's looking at because he's pointing and saying that, but his point is not particularly coordinated. He's just turned 1. So we have to sort of get down, put our face next to his and really try and see what his point might be looking at from his point of view. And when he's saying that, instead of just saying that back, which isn't really expanding his language at all, we try and give it a specific name. So notice what he's saying. Oh, a plane. You see a plane in the sky. Or it might be, yeah, there's a big mess over there. Or, oh, a cow. Whatever it is that he's pointing at and saying that is what we give the name. And then we wait. And so one of the really best things to keep in mind with this serve and return is that it is your child's job to serve and it is our job to return. They might then take another turn and continue the rally, and then it's our turn again to respond. So part of that is about who is initiating this communication. One of the traps that I and so many other parents fall into is wanting to teach our children language and narrate the day and talk all the time and give them all of these wonderful words. But if we're initiating the interaction, we know that children are less likely to learn from it. Whereas when they're initiating the interaction, they're telling us what they're interested in, and children are more likely to learn language. So as much as possible, sitting back, waiting expectantly, observing your child, following what they're interested in, and letting them start the rally with a serve. Whether the serve is verbal, like saying that or nana, or whether their serve is non-verbal, it might be just with a gesture or a look. But if you're waiting for them to start it and then giving the words that relate to that, they're so much more likely to learn that language. And you can really start to build step by step by getting that rally going. So really taking that tennis metaphor seriously and going, it is their serve. I'm waiting, I'm looking, I'm so ready that when they do that serve, I'm here to just hit the ball back to them so that they can try and get it back to me. We're not trying to, ace our response back so that they can't hit it back to us. We want our response to be at the right level for them to hit to them so they can get it back to us. So the aim of the tennis game in this analogy is not to win. The aim is to get a rally going. It can be really hard sometimes to notice what your child is serving to you. Especially, you're busy, you've got lots of things going on, your attention's divided, especially if your child is not yet talking. So in those pre-verbal kids, noticing their serves is even harder because their serves aren't going to be making any noise. It's going to be, using their eyes to look at something they're interested in. It's going to be using their fingers to point to something or making babbling noises. And it's hard to interpret sometimes. And all you can really do is take your best guess and add a word to what your child is doing that feels like the most likely opportunity. So parents know their children best. It's going to be easier for you to do this than for anyone else, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. It can be really hard to figure out what your child's looking at, and you're not always going to get it right. You can always have another guess. So if your child sort of points vaguely in the direction of the kitchen bench and there's a lot of stuff on there, have a look at it. Think, what is your child most likely to be pointing at? Is it nearly snack time? And so they're probably pointing at the fruit bowl or a container of food that they can see up there. Is it, there's something up there that's not normally up there that they might be trying to draw your attention to? Get down to your child's level, look up at the bench, see what they can see from where they are, and what might be sticking out to them. Is there a new book that's sitting up there, or an old book that's waiting to be fixed that's an old favourite and they haven't seen for a little while? If your house is anything like mine, there's always going to be lots of things that they could be trying to point at when they point at the kitchen bench out of reach. And just adding those words, children, you might get it right and you might get it wrong, and that's okay. It's all a work in progress. So when you're thinking about your child's done a serve, you've done a return, how long do you then wait? It's a common question we get asked in my work is, how long do I wait for? And I think I used to give guidelines. I'd say wait for 5 seconds, like 5 slow seconds, 5 elephant, 1 elephant, 2 elephant, 3 elephant, 4 elephant, 5 elephant. And I think I hope that was helpful for the parents that I used to give, but now I focus more on helping parents understand what they're waiting for. You are waiting for your child to either initiate, or you're waiting for your child to return your response on that third step. So you're waiting for your child to send a message. Your child might send that message verbally. Your child might send that message non-verbally. You might need to wait half a second for your child to respond to you somehow. You might need to wait 10 seconds for your child to respond to you. It might even be longer than that if your child's, focused in on independent play and not actually in a communication mode right now. And setting aside some time each day to really engage in play or in an interaction with your child while you're changing their nappy or while you're cooking together or loading the washing machine, and saying, for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to wait for my child to initiate a conversation, and then I will respond and wait again. And knowing what you're waiting for based on, the age and communication level of your child. Are you looking for a gesture? Are you waiting for some babble? Are you waiting for a word or a sentence? And that's why it's such a nice framework for communication, because you can really do this with older children as well. So they might be taking their turn and it might actually be a whole sentence, and then your response might be to almost say their sentence back to them and then add some extra detail or information. So if they point to a ladybug and say, look, it's a bug, but your child's 3, then your turn might be, yeah, it's called a ladybug. Or if they go, oh, look, a purple flower, and they're trying to start a conversation about this purple flower, you might be able to tell them that one's lavender. That one has a really nice scent. Or you might be able to say something else about the flower. Oh, look, there's even a little bee buzzing around that flower collecting some pollen to make some honey. So you can really take their turn and then add to it, showing interest in what they're interested in, giving them that next level of information. If your child's turn is nonverbal, your turn might just be adding one word. If your child's turn was to say a single word, your turn might be to say that single word back to them, but maybe turn it into a 2 or 3 word sentence. So you can always go, my turn is at the same level as my child or a little bit above, depending on what you're wanting to try and focus on. The next episode is going to be a little bit about what kinds of words to teach your child, but I would like everyone to go into that episode sort of really knowing that the type of words to teach your child, like the key thing is to teach your child the words they're interested in by using this serve and return framework. So, thinking about practical tips for the next week. So begin small, aim for just a few serve and return interactions each day. Pick a routine moment, pick a meal, pick a walk, pick a time where you're reading books, and really focus in on let your child initiate, let them serve, and your job is to return. Use your body language, so eye contact or turning towards them. Use your facial expressions to show that you're interested and you're expectantly waiting for them to take their turn. Resist the urge to quiz or test them and take over with an adult-led interaction. Focus on your turn being something like a comment or an expansion of what they said, or reflecting back at them what they've said to you with interest. It's easiest to use this in daily routines or in play rather than just trying to naturally do it all day, every day. That is obviously the ideal, is to do this all day, every day, but it does take practice. It's so easy as an adult to be the one who leads interactions, and taking that back step into the back seat and letting your child lead and start the interactions is a big shift, and really having to consciously practice it is what most people have to do. It's something I've been doing this as my job for a decade now, and I still need to practice and consciously turn on this serve and return mindset rather than me doing the serving. And just making sure you know that you're looking for any kind of serve, verbal or non-verbal. All communication is honoured and responded to. Respond to non-verbal serves just as you would to a verbal serve. So that's our little bit of a dive into the concept of serve and return, which is not just a metaphor. It is a scaffold we can use every day. It is backed by Harvard's research. If you'd like to watch a helpful visual example, check out the videos that I link in the show notes. Thanks for listening today. This was the first of a little mini series on early communication, really aimed at that sort of 0 to 3 age range. In the next episode, I will be talking about choosing first words, which words matter the most, and how to get the most bang for your buck when you're supporting your child's language development. A little bit of a spoiler alert, it's not about drilling, cow, horse, and monkey. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love it if you could share it with a friend or leave a review. It really helps other parents find Not Just Theories. So until next week, remember to watch for your child's serve, that gesture, sound, or look, and try returning it with those 5 steps we talked about. Just try and keep that conversation going. Thanks so much for listening to Not Just Theories. I really appreciate you being here. If this episode resonated with you, the best way to support the show is to follow, leave us a rating or review, or just share this episode with someone else who you think might find it comforting or useful. I hope to see you back here soon.